As Wang Lin was flying, his brow suddenly furrowed. In the distance, he saw more than 10 cultivators approaching, their spiritual senses connected in a strange manner, sweeping across the area. Among them were 3 at the spirit transformation stage, and the rest were at the nascent soul stage. They were not targeting any one person specifically. Instead, every cultivator was being examined. When their spiritual senses swept over Wang Lin's position, he had no time to engage with them. With a single step forward, he instantly disappeared from the spot, vanishing without a trace from the combined spiritual senses of the group. The group of cultivators noticed nothing unusual and continued their sweeping search. Wang Lin moved at an extraordinary speed. Before long, he arrived at the entrance of the soul refining sect. The mountain protection array of the sect was already activated, manifesting as a black soul mist. From a distance, it appeared as if countless vengeful spirits and wild ghosts were trapped inside. Occasionally, a chilling scream echoed from within, making it seem like a realm of the dead, enough to instill fear in anyone who gazed upon it. No cultivators from the Pilla Kingdom dared approach this place. They would usually take a detour. Seeing the mountain protection array of the soul refining sect, Wang Lin let out a sigh of relief. Its activation meant that the sect was still intact. He formed hand seals, and the soul locking art immediately activated. He then spat out a breath, and a black light shot from his mouth, transforming into a 3-meter-long soul banner in front of him. Enter. Wang Lin pointed forward with his right hand, and the soul banner immediately moved without wind, its massive fabric wrapping around him, swiftly pulling him into the black soul mist of the mountain protection array. As the soul banner entered the black mist, the mist parted on both sides, clearing a path for Wang Lin. The soul banner moved at incredible speed and disappeared into the depths of the mist in the blink of an eye. At that moment, the black soul mist produced by the mountain protection array returned to its normal state, and the small path that had been cleared was quickly swallowed up by the surging mist on either side. Inside the soul refining sect, little had changed since the last time Wang Lin left. However, the disciples within were dwindling, now barely a tenth of their former number. From a distance, the 9 golden rings were reduced to just 3. You've returned. A hoarse voice slowly echoed in the air. A blood-red ring appeared before Wang Lin as Dun Tian emerged. Dun Tian looked even older than before, exuding a thick aura of death. His entire presence was a stark contrast to his former self. Senior. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he took a close look at Dun Tian, sighing inwardly. He could tell that Dun Tian's lifespan was nearly depleted. You figured it out. Dun Tian laughed heartily. It's no matter. I still have a few years left. I won't die so easily. Indeed, your cultivation has greatly improved over these years. You've reached the realm of refining immortal qi and bone condensation and flesh shedding. If you had a large amount of immortal jade, reaching the infant metamorphosis stage would be just around the corner. Dun Tian examined Wang Lin carefully, his heart shaken, and his eyes shone with a bright gleam. Wang Lin pondered for a moment before asking, Senior, do you have any immortal jade here? Dun Tian looked up at the sky, laughing heartily. Ah, you old scoundrel, returning to the soul refining sect just for immortal jade. If you weren't lacking in it, I doubt you'd have come back at all. Wang Lin smiled faintly and shook his head. For the billion soul banner, I would return regardless. Dun Tian's eyes gleamed, and he looked at Wang Lin with a touch of admiration. Good, the billion soul banner is yours. My soul after a few years will be yours as well, and even the entire soul refining sect is yours. If you don't like it, you may leave the soul refining sect, but you must remember, I did this for you, and you must repay me. Dun Tian continued with a serious tone, what I ask of you is to protect the billion soul banner. As long as the banner remains, the soul refining sect's legacy will endure. This small vermilion bird star cannot stop your path. If you leave this place one day, you must find a place where the soul refining sect can thrive and build 999 celestial ladder towers, achieving the standard of a level 6 cultivation nation. Zheng Niu, do you understand? Wang Lin's gaze remained calm. He knew that in this world, nothing was given without a price. To gain something, one had to sacrifice. Wang Lin agreed inwardly with Dun Tian's words and after some contemplation, nodded. I understand. Dun Tian studied Wang Lin for a long while before letting out a soft sigh. He looked up at the sky and thought to himself, Brother, I've placed everything on your divine calculation. I hope we don't end up with nothing. He took a deep breath, flicked his sleeve, and said, Follow me. With that, he led the way, and Wang Lin followed closely behind. Their figures moved like lightning, crossing over the mountain peaks and arriving at the Soul Refining Sect's rear mountains. There, Dun Tian raised his right hand and cast a spell, which directly landed in the void. Suddenly, the world trembled, and a massive black vortex appeared in the air. Countless black lightning bolts roamed around the vortex, and a dangerous aura suddenly spread outward. This is the forbidden area of my Soul Refining Sect. Only those who have mastered the soul-locking art throughout the generations can enter. Bringing you here does not violate our sect's rules, Dun Tian said, his body moving as he stepped into the vortex. Wang Lin paused for a moment, appearing calm on the outside, but secretly he remained cautious, following right behind him. The moment they entered the vortex, Wang Lin felt as though he had entered a teleportation array. In the blink of an eye, the scenery changed, and they found themselves in a vast cave. The cave was not large. Directly ahead, a wall held more than 30 spirit tablets made of immortal jade. That is the spirit tablets of the infant metamorphosis cultivators from my Soul Refining Sect throughout the generations, Dun Tian said, bowing to the tablets. Wang Lin also bent down and paid his respects. A trace of satisfaction appeared in Dun Tian's eyes as he subtly nodded. He then walked forward and struck the wall with his palm. Immediately, the sound of rumbling echoed from all directions. Zhang Niu, sit cross-legged. The immortal jade of my Soul Refining Sect is running low. Though we accumulated quite a bit during the 4 Sacred Stars period, after tens of thousands of years and the emergence of over 30 infant metamorphosis cultivators, it's long gone. The remaining pieces are from when my senior brothers and I traveled to the immortal realm in our youth. I'm afraid they won't be enough for you, but don't worry. If there isn't enough, I'll take you to seize some. We'll get you through infant metamorphosis in a short time, no matter what. Since my master's generation, the Soul Refining Sect has never worried about the lack of immortal jade for those in infant metamorphosis. We simply go to the sects we want, carry the Billion Soul banner, and seize what we need. If one sect isn't enough, we take from 2. If 2 aren't enough, we take from 3. Eventually, we'll have enough. When I underwent infant metamorphosis, my master carried the Billion Soul banner and raided 3 level 5 cultivation sections. Dun Tian spoke calmly, even showing a hint of pride in his eyes. Wang Lin could only smile bitterly. He secretly thought that the Soul Refining Sect was truly overbearing. The Billion Soul banner was an item even the Vermilion Bird Patriarch had to fear. With such a treasure, it was no wonder the sect had so many infant metamorphosis cultivators. It was all because they had seized immortal jade. At that moment, the rumbling grew louder, and the ground trembled slightly. Finally, with a series of cracking sounds, 2 massive blocks of immortal jade rose from the ground. Rich immortal power immediately spread throughout the surroundings. Wang Lin took a closer look. These 2 massive pieces of immortal jade were of lower quality compared to the ones he had used before, but their size meant they contained a vast amount of immortal power. Wang Lin took a deep breath, sat cross-legged, and quickly began absorbing the energy. The 2 pieces of immortal jade surrounded Wang Lin, emitting overwhelming immortal energy. As soon as this energy was released, Wang Lin immediately absorbed it into his body, his figure resembling a giant vortex, frantically drawing in the immortal power from the 2 blocks of jade. Gradually, the immortal energy emanating from the jade began to take on a milky white hue. Wang Lin's body seemed to connect to the energy through a series of lines, which he absorbed at an intense rate. Not far away, Dun Tian silently nodded. After a moment, he tapped his storage pouch, and 7 small white flags appeared in his hand. With a wave of his right hand, the flags flew out and positioned themselves around Wang Lin's body. Instantly, white lines spread out from the flags, connecting and forming an irregular shape. Stand. Dun Tian made a hand gesture, pointing at the void. Immediately, white curtains rose from the lines connecting the flags, completely enveloping Wang Lin. Zhang Niu, with this formation, your speed in absorbing immortal energy and converting spiritual energy will be faster. I have never been stingy with you, Dun Tian said. Endless spiritual energy poured in from all directions, from every pore of Wang Lin's body. The energy transformed his body, causing the spiritual energy inside him to rapidly convert. Gradually, Wang Lin lost track of time, fully immersed in the process of refining his body with immortal energy. He began to deeply understand the essence of immortal power. The infant metamorphosis stage was a transformation of power, the blending of spiritual and immortal energies. It could be said that only by mastering immortal power could one truly be considered a strong cultivator. Cultivators in infant metamorphosis, having mastered immortal energy, found that many magical treasures that required spiritual energy to activate could no longer function. However, there were also treasures in the world that could only be activated by immortal power, revealing their true strength, such as immortal swords and divine chariots. As time passed, even with so much immortal energy, there would eventually be a limit to how much could be absorbed. On the 2 blocks of immortal jade in front of Wang Lin, cracks began to appear with a faint cracking sound. On this day, after Wang Lin drained the last bit of immortal energy from the jade in front of him, it immediately shattered with a sharp crack, collapsing into a pile of powder that gathered on the ground, forming a small mound. At the same time, the jade behind him also shattered, following the same fate. Wang Lin's hair rose on its own, floating eerily without wind. The immortal energy surging through his body was now many times denser than before. A tremendous pressure emanated from him, spreading outward. The 7 small flags surrounding him couldn't withstand it and began to tremble before being forcefully dispersed. Wang Lin slowly lifted his head, standing up, his eyes flashing with a sharp glint before returning to calm. 1/3 completed. Wang Lin's gaze fell upon Dun Tian, who was meditating in a nearby corner. Dun Tian opened his eyes, a smile on his face, and said, "Not bad. Let's go. I'll take you to see some immortal jade. This is a tradition of our soul-refining sect. Though the Immortal Remnant clan is in chaos, it won't stop us from maintaining this tradition." With a hearty laugh, Dun Tian raised his right hand and tore through the air, immediately opening a black vortex. He stepped forward, entering it. A slight smile appeared at the corner of Wang Lin's mouth as he followed, stepping into the vortex as well. When they emerged, they found themselves in the void outside the soul-refining sect's mountain gates. Dun Tian had his hands behind his back, and beneath his feet, a patch of white clouds appeared as he flew forward. Wang Lin followed leisurely behind, his mind focused on his body, sensing the changes in his immortal energy. At this moment, there was little spiritual energy left in his body. More than half of it had already transformed into immortal energy. This increased the amount of immortal energy within him. However, his body, bones, meridians, and all other structures still required immortal energy for solidification. Thus, he still needed a large amount of immortal jade to complete the infant metamorphosis. In the western part of Pilla Kingdom, there was a vast marshland with no visible end. It was a desolate, silent world. For thousands of miles, no human presence could be seen. This was the paradise for all insects. The environment of the marsh made it home to countless poisonous insects, some of which even cultivators dared not provoke. Here, swarms of insects could often be seen roaring past. They were the rulers of this land. In the marsh, there were also some other demonic beasts, all filled with venom. However, they were no match for the poisonous insects, so they rarely surfaced. Most of the time, these beasts remained hidden within the marsh. Throughout the entire Pilla Kingdom, except for the common folk, all cultivators knew that they should never step into the western marshlands. It wasn't because it was an impassable natural barrier, but because it was the entrance to the venomous demon sect. The venomous demon sect lived within this marsh. The sect was rather peculiar. It had no grand main hall or mountain gates. Instead, it existed in a scattered manner, spread across the vast marshland. There were areas within the marsh that were small but solid enough to live in. Disciples of the venomous demon sect resided in these areas, scattered throughout the marsh. The disciples of the venomous demon sect rarely formed close bonds with each other. Most cultivated alone. Their sect's cultivation method was the insect cultivation art, which, with the abundance of poisonous insects in the marsh, greatly facilitated their training. On this day, 2 figures appeared in the sky above the marsh's edge. One was an elderly man, dressed in black with graying hair. His body was almost skin and bones. He stood with his hands behind his back, his gaze cold, and an aura emanating from him that made the surrounding poisonous insects scatter in fear. The other figure was a young man, dressed in white with his hair casually tied behind his head. While not particularly handsome, he had an otherworldly air about him. His eyes, sharp and clear, seemed to pierce through the heart upon a mere glance. These 2 were Dun Tian and Wang Lin. Dun Tian, clearly familiar with the terrain, led Wang Lin directly to this place. Looking down at the vast marsh below, Dun Tian sighed, "Zhang Miu, don't be fooled by the venomous demon sect's secretive ways. I'll tell you, the disciples of this sect were once rats in their past lives. When my master brought me here, the immortal jade we seized was almost 3 times what ordinary sects would get." With that, he raised his right hand and grabbed the air. Immediately, a billion soul banners appeared in his hand. As he gripped the 3 banner, his aura surged. He looked down at the marsh below, and with a wave of his hand, The souls within the banner surged out, sweeping in all directions. In that moment, the heavens and earth seemed to change color as the souls howled and wailed, creating sound waves more powerful than magical treasures, spreading out in a deafening roar. More than a dozen purple gold soul fragments appeared and immediately roared with excitement, their faces lighting up with eagerness. Without waiting for orders, they charged forward, scattering like poison insects sensing their natural predators. Dun Tion's eyes flashed as he bellowed, "You rats from the venomous demon sect, your old master, Dun Tion, is here. The rules remain the same, quickly present me with the immortal jade." Upon hearing this, Wang Lin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Dun Tion's words were amusing. Had he really set some kind of rule for stealing others' immortal jade? What Wang Lin didn't know was that the soul refining sect had long been notorious for their arrogance. When Dun Tion had been brought here by his master years ago, he had said something very similar. It was said that his master's master had also spoken in nearly the same manner. In any case, there were indeed rules regarding this matter. Suddenly, a few furious roars echoed from the swamp. Two figures turned into flashes of lightning and swooped in. Those souls attempting to block their way were pushed back by their momentum even before they could come close. However, both figures were careful not to harm the souls, only forcing them back. Old Ghost Dun Tion, the immortal jade is gone. One of the elders, wearing a purple-red robe and having two blood-red centipedes wrapped around his ears, immediately shouted. The other was an old woman, clad in rough cloth robes. Though her face was wrinkled, her eyes were sharp and bright. She coughed lightly, interrupting the purple-red robed elder, and said to Dun Tion, "Old Ghost Dun Tion, we can't give you the immortal jade this time. When the Immortal Remnant clan attacked last time, I was severely wounded. I used the immortal jade to heal, and I've only recovered half since then. For the sake of the future, I cannot give it to you." Dun Tion's gaze hardened as it landed on the old woman. His right hand pressed to his forehead, and the death aura that had been suppressed along the way suddenly surged forth. In a hoarse voice, he said, "Yin Hong, my lifespan is less than 2 years." The old woman froze, her expression changing slightly. The purple-red robed elder's face also turned grim. He muttered, "You all from the soul refining sect are a bunch of madmen. With your lifespans nearly up, you're not afraid of death. You use the billion soul banner to forcibly take the immortal jade." Dun Tion laughed loudly. "That's right. My lifespan is less than 2 years, so I'm not afraid of death. Today, give me the immortal jade, and I'll leave. If not, I won't fight you. But as for all the poison insects in this swamp, I'll exterminate their kind." The elder in the purple-red robe laughed in anger, about to speak, but the old woman cleared her throat and interrupted. "Old Ghost, why bother? If you act, I won't even talk about the possible retaliation from both of us. I can assure you, this young one by your side, he is bound to die." Wang Lin smiled faintly. With a flick of his right hand, the immortal sword flew out of his storage pouch. With a sweep, a brilliant sword light howled through the air. This strike was infused with a trace of immortal power. Although he hadn't fully reached the infant metamorphosis stage, he could still use a bit of immortal power. The immortal sword, naturally, required immortal power to wield. Once infused, the sword suddenly radiated a dazzling golden light. The aura of immortality surged from it as the sword light, like a force that could split the heavens, screamed down upon them. The old woman's expression changed drastically. She quickly grabbed her storage pouch, and a turtle shell appeared in her hand. Throwing it out, she tried to block the sword light. Bang! A huge explosion rang out as the turtle shell shattered into flying dust. At the same time, the sword light was blocked and dissipated completely. The old woman's face grew very ugly, and the purple-robed elder beside her also changed his expression, staring at Wang Lin. "Both of you, is it really true that I will die today?" Wang Lin asked slowly, his tone flat. "Who are you?" the old woman asked coldly. Although she had expected the immortal power in that last strike, she hadn't expected this person to possess an immortal treasure. A magical item driven by spiritual power, no matter its quality, was called a spirit treasure. Similarly, a magical item powered by immortal power was known as an immortal treasure. Immortal treasures could perfectly withstand the infusion of immortal power and unleash its full might. These treasures were rare in the cultivation world. For most infant metamorphosis cultivators, aside from seeking to advance to a higher level, acquiring an immortal treasure was their greatest pursuit. The difference between an infant metamorphosis cultivator with and without an immortal treasure was immense. Possessing such a treasure meant having a weapon that could fully harness immortal power, whereas without one, They could only use immortal power for spells and techniques, which was ultimately weaker. There were also some magical items that were between the realms of spiritual and immortal treasures. They could be controlled with immortal power, though not as effectively as immortal treasures. However, they were still several times stronger than spirit treasures. These were called pseudo-immortal treasures. The Billion Soul Banner and Forbidden Banner were examples of such pseudo-immortal treasures. The old woman's expression flickered. She looked at Wang Lin and slowly said, "To think you could kill Li Yuanfeng of the Snow Domain Kingdom and even the ancestor of the giant demon clan, Zhang Niu. It seems today, this old woman truly cannot spare you." The old woman sighed inwardly. Though she was at the late infant metamorphosis stage, killing Wang Lin wouldn't be difficult. However, with Dun Tian present, she had no chance to kill him. She glanced at the elderly figure beside her and sighed again. The elder beside her, dressed in a purple-red robe, looked grim. His cultivation was at the early infant metamorphosis stage. He believed that if he were to kill Li Yuanfeng, it would be easy, but facing the giant demon clan ancestor was much more difficult. However, this young man before him was the one who had killed both Li Yuanfeng and the giant demon ancestor. Though Wang Lin hadn't yet fully entered the infant metamorphosis stage, to this elder, Wang Lin already seemed like a practitioner of the same level. Dun Tian chuckled loudly, clearly pleased with Wang Lin's performance. This is how people from the soul refining sect should act. Enough talk. According to the rules, give me half of the immortal jade, Dun Tian said. The old woman pondered for a moment, then looked at Dun Tian with a flash in her eyes. Half is fine, but old ghost, the second attack from the immortal remnant clan is imminent. If my venomous demon sect fails, you must step in and help. Dun Tian glanced at the old woman and replied, that depends on how much immortal jade you have. The old woman smiled bitterly, took out a storage pouch from her robe, and without even looking at it, tossed it to Dun Tian. It will satisfy you. Dun Tian caught it, and his divine sense swept over it. His expression immediately became strange, and he stared at the old woman. Could it be that your venomous demon sect ancestors were actually all rats? Last time, my master took so much, and now you still have this much? Do you have some way to obtain immortal jade? The old woman remained calm, speaking flatly. Don't ask about that. Just remember our agreement. With that, she moved swiftly, flying off into the distance. The elder in the purple-red robe cast a deep glance at Wang Lin, hesitated for a moment, cupped his hands in a fist salute to Wang Lin, and turned to leave. With that, Dun Tian led Wang Lin across the entire Pillar Kingdom, plundering large amounts of immortal jade. Along the way, Wang Lin witnessed Dun Tian's tyranny firsthand. Holding the Billion Soul Banner, Dun Tian directly demanded spirit stones from others. If they didn't comply, he would release souls from the banner, threatening to use his remaining 2 years of life to force the sects into submission. Perhaps due to the notorious reputation of the soul refining sect, the other two sects were furious. But the soul refining sect had always been like this, and in the end, they threw out immortal jade to appease him. Did you see that? This is the way my soul refining sect has acted for thousands of years. When you carry the Billion Soul Banner, you must act the same. Don't tarnish our reputation, Dun Tian said, slapping his storage pouch and smiling at Wang Lin. Though Dun Tian's aura was still steeped in death, Wang Lin could clearly sense a strange sense of relief coming from him. Back in the day, my soul refining sect had an ancestor who wanted to break through and challenge the pinnacle. The amount of immortal jade he needed was countless times more than what you need now. He almost swept across the entire Vermilion Bird Star, and even went to the Vermilion Bird Nation. With the Billion Soul Banner in hand, even the pinnacle old monsters were reluctant to act, but he still managed to collect vast amounts of immortal jade. Dun Tian continued. Wang Lin smiled wryly. He could imagine the headache the Vermilion Bird Nation's pinnacle old monster must have had back then, thinking of giving away immortal jade. It must have felt like paying for others. After all, those who wielded the Billion Soul Banner were usually the tyrants of a generation. I understand now why the soul refining sect went from being a 5th-level cultivation nation to becoming a sect, Wang Lin mused inwardly. But that ancestor ultimately failed in his quest and died. I don't agree with his methods. Unless it's absolutely necessary, it's best not to provoke the pinnacle old monsters. But look at how it is now. With my Billion Soul Banner, we can walk freely across any 5th-level cultivation nation, targeting whichever sect we want. Even if we run into a master of the Immortal Remnant clan, it doesn't matter. Wang Lin smiled bitterly again. Dun Tian's tyranny didn't stop at the Pillar Kingdom. In fact, it was somewhat restrained there, since everyone was from the same country and there was no need to turn hostile over minor things. However, once they left Pillar Kingdom, Wang Lin truly understood the extent of Dun Tian's dominance. For 3 months, Dun Tian took Wang Lin through 4 5th-level cultivation nations, plundering them like locusts. Even some cultivation families were affected, forced to give up a few immortal jade stones. As for the sects, Dun Tian didn't waste words. He directly unleashed the Billion Soul banner, spreading souls everywhere. Among them were more than 10 prime souls that were in the infant metamorphosis stage. No 5th-level sect could resist such an attack. A large amount of immortal jade was collected by Dun Tian and stored in his pouch. Finally, in the 4th 5th-level cultivation nation, Dun Tian's relentless plundering of immortal jade angered the infant metamorphosis cultivators there. 4 of them attempted to surround and attack Dun Tian. This time, Wang Lin truly witnessed the power of the Billion Soul banner. In a single battle, Wang Lin didn't even get the chance to make a move. The 4 infant metamorphosis cultivators were immediately defeated. Had Dun Tian not held back from killing, one of them would have certainly become the Soul Banner's primary soul. During the final years of Dun Tian's life, his arrogance reached such heights that sometimes, when Wang Lin saw it, he couldn't help but put on his straw hat to cover his face, hiding his appearance with the golden glow radiating from it. This way, if Dun Tian eventually became the Soul Banner's primary soul, the sects whose immortal jade had been looted wouldn't come after him. For level 5 cultivation nations, 13 sects, and over 100 cultivation families, if you include the Pillar Kingdom, that's a total of 16 sections. Over the past 3 months, Dun Tian had seized a vast amount of immortal jade from these sections. This day, Dun Tian finally stopped. This amount of immortal jade should be enough for your infant metamorphosis, and perhaps there will be some left over. In the future, if you wish to increase your cultivation, you'll have to seize it yourself. Remember, in the cultivation world, especially for infant metamorphosis cultivators, the only way to obtain immortal jade is by stealing it. Otherwise, even if more disciples go to the immortal realm, they won't collect enough for use. Dun Tian said seriously to Wang Lin. Wang Lin nodded. He had no qualms about stealing immortal jade, but he disagreed with Dun Tian's method. If it were him, he would never leave half behind. Either he wouldn't steal it all, or if he did, he would take it all. The process might be difficult, but in the end, the amount of immortal jade would certainly be more than double what they had now. With enough immortal jade, Dun Tian took Wang Lin to the Soul Refining Sect. There, he planned to protect Wang Lin and help him reach the infant metamorphosis stage. Vermilion Bird Star is too small. When I was young, I once went to Destiny Star. It's 10 times larger than Vermilion Bird Star, with many more sects, so naturally, there's more immortal jade. If not for my lack of strength, stealing from there would be quite thrilling. I've heard that within the Cultivation Alliance, many level 6 and above cultivation nations often organize expeditions to other cultivation stars to steal immortal jade. Dun Tian sighed. Destiny Star. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. The Destiny Sun on Destiny Star has unfathomable cultivation. It's said that he holds a position within the Cultivation Alliance. He's far beyond the likes of the Vermilion Bird Patriarch. Dun Tian said. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, about to ask more questions, but suddenly, Dun Tian's expression changed. He gazed into the distance, and Wang Lin's divine sense stirred as he turned his gaze. In the distance, within a sea of clouds, a swirling black mist seemed to engulf heaven and earth, howling as it came. The mist spread over a vast area, its edges unseen, endless in its expanse. A vast wave of rune power slowly spread outward. The Immortal Remnant Clan. Dun Tian's eyes flashed. From their conversations in recent days, Wang Lin had learned that the Immortal Remnant Clan had resurfaced on Vermilion Bird Star several years ago, organizing a massive force to launch an attack on Vermilion Bird Continent. That war had led to the downfall of countless cultivators, and within the Immortal Remnant Clan, there were spellcasters on par with the Ascendant Stage. These individuals fought fiercely against the Vermilion Bird Patriarch and other Ascendant Stage experts. The battle lasted for 3 years, and after that, the Immortal Remnant Clan withdrew, gradually devouring level 3 cultivation nations, establishing a standoff with Vermilion Bird Nation. In that war, 2 figures from Vermilion Bird Nation stood out, Lu Mei and Qian Feng. Lu Mei, with her unparalleled beauty, immediately caught the eye of the new generation of male cultivators on Vermilion Bird Star. Especially since her cultivation had reached the mid-infant metamorphosis stage, her fame soared even further. She quickly overshadowed the fame of Hong Dai from that year, becoming the most admired woman of her time. Hong Dai seemed to have faded from everyone's attention. What made Lu Mei even more captivating was her background. She was the Vermilion Bird Patriarch's direct disciple and one of the candidates to succeed him. Upon her appearance, Lu Mei captured several 7-leaf spellcasters from the Immortal Remnant clan, and even managed to capture an 8-leaf spellcaster at the late infant metamorphosis stage. Her rise was like a comet. Even more captivating was the rumor that Lu Mei was pure-hearted and kind. With such a heart, she had cultivated to such a height, never having killed anyone. Even members of the Immortal Remnant clan were merely captured, never killed. With so many points of admiration, Lu Mei naturally drew much attention. Whenever she appeared, all nearby cultivators would instantly show respect and obedience. In fact, some battles that were already lost turned into victories thanks to her presence, as the cultivators of Vermilion Birdstar were reinvigorated by her help. She was undoubtedly one of the 2 prodigies of this generation. The other prodigy was Qianfeng. Handsome, elegant, and with cultivation at the mid-infant metamorphosis stage, there was no arrogance about him. He was gentle, righteous, and acted with unparalleled integrity. He appeared in the 2nd year of the Immortal Remnant clan's attack. The battle between the 2 was considered a fated duel between the future heirs of the Immortal Remnant clan and Vermilion Birdstar. Though Qianfeng didn't defeat the young clan leader in this round, the impact of his performance was undeniable, and his reputation soared. It was at this moment that people began to realize his true identity. He was the senior brother of Lu Mei, and the 2nd-ranked disciple of the Vermilion Bird Patriarch. Furthermore, Qianfeng carried another identity that made everyone in the Vermilion Bird Star look at him with renewed attention. He was a descendant of the previous Vermilion Bird Patriarch. In the recent war with the Immortal Remnant clan, Qianfeng's name spread across the world like the moon shining in the night sky. In the end, he signed an agreement on behalf of the Vermilion Bird Patriarch with the young clan leader of the Immortal Remnant clan. As a result, the Vermilion Bird side gave up on the 3rd-level cultivation nation, and the Immortal Remnant clan paused their attacks. Dun Tian's eyes gleamed as he stared at the vast black mist coming from the distance, his voice low as he spoke. The Immortal Remnant clan is launching their 2nd attack. Zhang Yo, I can sense a curse master in that black mist at the mid-infant metamorphosis stage. As for whether they are reaching for the peak, I can't see through it. Bring out the soul banner, and let's charge forward. Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he glanced at the black mist in the distance. With a swift motion of his right hand, he summoned his billion soul banner, which materialized instantly in his grasp. With a flick of his wrist, the banner unfurled and wrapped around him like a black shroud. Dun Tian did the same, summoning his own billion soul banner. With a sweep, it covered his entire body, and together, they transformed into 2 black streaks, streaking through the air with the sound of breaking wind and the piercing wails of vengeful spirits as they sped toward the Immortal Remnant clan's black mist. Roars echoed from the Immortal Remnant clan as they revealed themselves within the mist. Just as Dun Tian and Wang Lin surged toward them, ready to attack, a voice from deep within the mist shouted, causing the clan members to scatter and create a path. A middle-aged man, devoid of any rune markings, stepped forward from the mist, his gaze sharp as lightning. He was dressed in simple hemp robes, and an old, hunched figure followed closely behind him. The old man's expression was dark, occasionally breaking into a cough. Wang Lin recognized the old man at once. He was the same person who had pursued him into the spatial rift during the battle in the Immortal Ruins, only to be lost within it after Wang Lin managed to escape. The enmity between them had already grown deep, and if the old man recognized Wang Lin, it would be a fight to the death. However, Wang Lin, wearing his straw hat and wrapped in the soul cloth, was unrecognizable to the old man. The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed as he softly muttered, "Soul Refining Sect." His eyes suddenly flashed, and with a step forward, he blocked Dun Tian and Wang Lin's path. "Two members of the Soul Refining Sect, stay here," he said with a slight smile, raising his hand to strike the air. A loud boom resounded as an invisible force emerged between heaven and earth, encasing Dun Tian and Wang Lin in a force field, like a celestial prison. Wang Lin's expression changed slightly as he felt an overwhelming sense of danger. The pressure from the invisible force was intense. "A 9-leaf curse master." Dun Tian's voice came from the soul banner. With a wave of his hand, the soul banner surrounding Dun Tian's body erupted with countless souls, and 13 purple gold souls descended like deities, radiating a divine presence as they spread out. "Charge!" Dun Tian shouted. Immediately, the souls surged forward with madness, especially the 13 purple gold souls. Their strength was so formidable that anyone at the mid-infant metamorphosis stage or lower from the immortal remnant clan would perish on contact. The middle-aged man furrowed his brow. Having just recently reached the 9-leaf stage, equivalent to the early stages of peak cultivation, he had never encountered the full power of the billion-soul banner. He had only read about it in ancient texts detailing a battle thousands of years ago in which the banner's power was so immense that it was regarded as one of the immortal remnant clan's most feared treasures. Seeing the banner in action now, the middle-aged man's expression darkened. With a wave of his hand, the black mist rapidly dispersed, and all the immortal remnant clan members retreated, creating a clear path. Dun Tian let out a hearty laugh, leading Wang Lin forward as they swiftly broke free from the mist, flying toward the distance. Mu Yi, continue leading the clan members forward and meet with the young clan leader. I'll go test the power of the billion-soul banner. The middle-aged man commanded, stepping forward to pursue Dun Tian. The hunched old man nodded, signaling the clan members to regroup in the black mist and continue moving forward. Dun Tian flew for a moment before pausing, sneering, the immortal remnant clan's 9-leaf curse master is catching up. Zhang Niu, watch closely and see why peak cultivation experts fear the billion-soul banner. As Dun Tian spoke, he turned to face the oncoming threat. A streak of light, fast as lightning, closed in on them. It was the middle-aged man. Without wasting words, Dun Tian made a hand seal, bit his tongue, and spat forward. 500 million souls, 13 prime souls, appear, he shouted. Suddenly, the sky darkened as if a black curtain had fallen, and the earth seemed to transform into a hellish landscape. An unending chorus of vengeful spirits screamed in the distance, their cries echoing in the air. Souls flew out one by one from the soul banner, densely scattered throughout the heavens and earth. Among them, 13 purple gold souls stood tall, their eyes shining brightly as they stared at the middle-aged man who had appeared. Watch closely. This is the true use of the soul banner. Soul Formation 13. Dun Tian shouted, and the soul cloth that enveloped his body immediately dispersed, transforming back into a 3-zhang-tall soul banner which he waved forward. In an instant, the 500 million souls that filled the heavens and earth immediately began to float around according to some hidden order, and centered around the 13 prime souls, they suddenly formed a massive formation. Even with Wang Lin's understanding of restriction formations, he could only sense the mystery of the formation, unable to fully comprehend it. Soul refining. Dun Tian shouted, his right hand reaching out. At once, the formation composed of souls trembled violently, and all the souls let out a unified voice that resembled a kind of incantation. In the blink of an eye, a black aura surged from these souls, condensing into a giant hand, as if it were Dun Tian's own avatar, mirroring his movements. With Dun Tian's grasp, a shimmering white shadow appeared on the middle-aged man's body, his soul. The giant hand suddenly descended. The middle-aged man's gaze flickered. Without using any magical artifact, he raised his right hand and lightly tapped the air, softly muttering, "Freeze." With a loud boom, the giant hand that had been grabbing stopped immediately, frozen in place. The middle-aged man reached out again, and immediately, 5 different auras, cyan, red, purple, white, and blue, gathered in his hand. Cauldron. The man murmured, and the 5 auras instantly scattered, rushing outward from him to form 5 enormous copper cauldrons that fell around them. Refine. The man whispered again, and with a tremor, each of the 5 cauldrons began to glow with strange runes that spun around them. The 5 cauldrons each formed massive whirlpools inside the formation, continuously spinning. A heavy, ancient aura immediately enveloped the entire formation, and some of the souls within it were irresistibly drawn into the whirlpools, where they were shredded apart and vanished into nothingness. Dun Tian's expression remained unchanged as he sneered, "No wonder you're a 9-leaf spell curse master. You have some skill." 13 souls, converge. Immediately, the formation of souls spun once again. This time, the 500 million souls rushed towards the 13 prime souls, and in an instant, the 13 prime souls solidified. 500 million souls condensed into 13 prime souls, and the power of these 13 souls skyrocketed, nearly each of them reaching the late infant metamorphosis stage, with immortal energy swirling within them. At this moment, the middle-aged man's expression finally changed. Dun Tian's eyes turned cold as he said, "It's not over yet. 13 souls, unify." As soon as the words were spoken, the 13 souls suddenly moved, leaving afterimages in their wake. After the afterimages vanished, the 13 souls merged into one. 500 million souls, 13 prime souls, united into one. The moment this soul appeared, the heavens and earth changed color. Ascend. The middle-aged man took a deep breath. Indeed, the soul formed from the fusion of so many souls had reached the ascendancy stage. This wasn't the true ascendancy, but rather, the manifestation of the combined will of the 13 prime souls. For generations, the prime souls of the soul-refining sect had all been formed by infant metamorphosis cultivators within the sect. As they neared death, the one regret they all had was the inability to reach the ascendancy stage. Their unfulfilled desire lived on in the soul banner after their deaths, growing stronger over time. In the end, the collective will formed a soul that possessed the power of ascendancy. However, this was not the full power of the soul banner, it was only a part of it. After all, this power could withstand the early ascendancy stage, but against the later ascendancy of Vermilion Bird Patriarch, it would still fall short. What truly made the Vermilion Bird Patriarch wary was when the soul banner showed its full potential, especially the fourth prime soul of the 36 main souls. This soul rarely appeared, and it was the one the Vermilion Bird Patriarch truly feared. Duntian looked at the middle-aged man and coldly said, "Leave. I will spare your life today. The battle between your immortal remnant clan and Vermilion Bird Nation has nothing to do with my soul-refining sect." The middle-aged man's face turned extremely dark, and the anger in his heart slowly rose. With his strength, if Duntian didn't have the billion soul banner, he could easily kill him. He stared at Duntian in silence for a while before speaking. "Is that all? Is this all the power of the billion soul banner?" Duntian laughed loudly, his gaze like lightning as he said, 10 prime souls, appear." He waved the soul banner, and immediately, 10 infant metamorphosis prime souls appeared, silently floating around. This time, the middle-aged man bitterly smiled. Standing before the billion soul banner, he finally understood why his clan was so fearful of this item. The soul-refining sect will not interfere in our battle with the Vermilion Bird Nation. I, on behalf of the Immortal Remnant clan, promise that we will not step foot into the soul-refining sect, the middle-aged man said in a deep voice. After speaking, he cupped his fist in a salute to Duntian, then carefully turned and left. Duntian shook the soul banner in his hand, retracting all the souls, and then swiftly left with Wang Lin. Billion soul banner. Wang Lin watched the scene unfold, a trace of fervor flashing in his eyes. With this banner in hand, there was no place in the world he could not go.